The old farmhouse stood at the end of a winding dirt road, surrounded by dense woods that seemed to swallow sound whole. Mark and Lisa had fallen in love with the property the moment they saw it. The wide porch, the fieldstone fireplace, the way the morning light filtered through the ancient oak in the front yard. The realtor had been strangely reluctant, mentioning only that the previous owners left suddenly, and the house had sat empty for nearly a decade. The price was unbelievably low, and in their excitement, they ignored the way the neighbors' faces tightened when they mentioned where they were moving. The first few nights were peaceful, if unnaturally quiet. No crickets, no owls, just an oppressive silence that made their voices sound too loud. Then the cold spots started. Lisa would walk into the kitchen and suddenly shiver, her breath fogging in air that felt like midwinter. Mark joked about bad insulation, but neither of them could explain why the cold always seemed to move, drifting from room to room like something was pacing the house. Their dog, Rex, a 90-pound German shepherd who had never been afraid of anything, refused to go near the basement door. He would whine and back away, his tail tucked between his legs. When Mark tried to force him down the stairs, Rex snarled, something he had never done before. That was the first real sign that something was wrong. The second came when Lisa found her favorite sweater in the trash, shredded to ribbons, reeking of something sour and rotten. The photographs were what convinced Lisa they weren't imagining things. She kept a framed picture of her parents on the nightstand, a happy shot from their anniversary dinner. One morning, she picked it up and froze. Her father's face was blurred, the features smeared like someone had dragged a wet thumb across the glass. The rest of the photo was untouched. When she showed Mark, he laughed nervously and said it must be condensation. But that night, they both watched as another photo on the wall, a landscape they'd bought at a flea market, slowly darkened, the colors bleeding together until the entire image was a swirl of black and red. Then came the whispers. At first, they were so faint Mark thought it was the wind through the old house's cracks. But Lisa heard them too, a low, rasping voice muttering just below the threshold of understanding. It came from the walls, the vents, once even from the kitchen sink drain. They bought a white noise machine, but the whispers only grew louder, as if whatever was speaking was delighted by their attempts to drown it out. One evening, Lisa woke to Rex growling at the bedroom door. When she turned on the light, she saw 3 long scratches running down the wood, fresh, the splinters still pale against the dark stain. Mark swore they hadn't been there when they went to bed. That was the night they started sleeping with the lights on. The scratching became a nightly occurrence. Some nights it came from the walls, other nights it seemed to circle the bed, slow and deliberate, like something was testing the boundaries of their fear. Mark set up cameras, but the footage always glitched at the worst moments, a blur of static, then nothing. Lisa began sleepwalking. Mark would wake to find her standing in the hallway, staring at the basement door, her nightgown damp with sweat. When he guided her back to bed, her skin was ice cold, and she would murmur the same phrase over and over. "She's waiting." Then the cabinets started opening on their own. Dishes shattered in the night. The stench of rot filled the house, strongest near the basement, though they never found the source. One afternoon, Lisa opened the fridge and screamed. Every item inside had been rearranged into a perfect spiral, the milk carton placed dead center, its expiration date circled in what looked like blood. They called a priest. Father Bayern was a no-nonsense man in his 60s who had performed dozens of house blessings. He walked through the rooms, sprinkling holy water, his voice steady as he recited prayers. But when he reached the basement door, he stopped. The vial of holy water in his hand cracked, the liquid inside boiling away into steam. He turned to them. pale. "There's something here," he said, "and it doesn't want you to leave. They should have left then. But pride, or maybe stubbornness, kept them there." "We're not letting some ghost chase us out of our home," Mark said. That night, they learned it wasn't a ghost. Lisa woke to the sound of Rex snarling. The bedroom was freezing, their breath fogging the air. Then the bed lurched. Something had grabbed the frame from beneath and yanked. Mark hit the floor, scrambling for the lamp. When the light flickered on, they saw it. A pale, emaciated hand, its fingers too long, curled around the bedpost. The lights went out. Something scuttled across the ceiling, its movements too fast, too wrong. Rex lunged, his teeth sinking into empty air as a high, gurgling laugh echoed through the room. The door slammed shut. Lisa screamed as cold fingers brushed her ankle. Then silence. The lights came back on. The room was empty, except for the handprint on the mirror. Small, child-sized, smeared in something dark and wet. They fled to a motel. For 3 days, nothing happened. No whispers, no cold spots. Rex stopped growling. They started to believe it was over. Then the texts started. "You forgot something." Attached was a photo of their bedroom. The sheets were torn, the mattress slashed open, stuffing spilled like guts, and on the wall above it, written in what looked like mud, "Come back." The messages came from Lisa's own phone number. They went back. Not for their things, for answers. The house was worse now. The walls pulsed, the plaster bulging as if something was pressing against it from the other side. The basement door stood open, a foul, wet smell wafting up. They found the crawl space behind a broken panel. Inside, nestled in the dirt, was a child's skeleton. Tiny, fragile, its skull caved in on one side. A rusted chain circled its ankle, the other end buried in the foundation. And beside it, a doll, its yarn hair matted, its button eyes scratched out. Lisa reached for it. The moment her fingers brushed the fabric, the house shuddered. The whispers became a scream, a child's voice, shrieking, "Mine, mine, mine." Then the lights died. They ran. The front door slammed shut. The windows darkened, the glass sweating black fluid. From the basement, something crawled. Bone-thin limbs skittering up the stairs, its head lolling on a broken neck. Rex attacked. The thing grabbed him, its fingers sinking into his fur. There was a wet crack. Mark dragged Lisa out through a window. They didn't look back. Behind them, the house wailed, the sound like 100 children crying at once. As their car peeled away, Lisa turned. A small figure stood in the doorway, waving. Then the house exploded into flames. The fire marshal called it faulty wiring. No remains were found. No one believed them. They moved across the country, changed their names, started over. Then Lisa got pregnant. The doctor frowned at the ultrasound. "That's odd," he said. "It's like there's 2 heartbeats." Last night, Mark woke to find Lisa standing in the nursery, rocking an empty cradle. When he touched her shoulder, she turned. Her eyes were black, and she was smiling. I picked up the night shift at Crestwood Memorial Hospital because the pay was double. The old building loomed over the town like a forgotten tomb, its flickering fluorescent lights doing little to dispel the shadows in the long hallways. The other nurses warned me about the 4th floor. "Don't answer the call lights after midnight," they said, "especially not room 423. I laughed it off. Ghost stories didn't scare me. Not until my 3rd night, when I heard the screaming. It started as a whisper, drifting through the empty ward. Then it grew, a raw, guttural shriek that shouldn't have come from human lungs. The sound pulled me down the hall like a fishhook in my ribs. "Room 4, 23's call light blinked red above the door. Inside, the bed was empty, the sheets neatly tucked, but the bathroom door was ajar. Something wet dripped from the handle. I told myself it was a prank, a patient wandering maybe. But the next night, the elevator opened on the 4th floor by itself, the buttons untouched. The air smelled like antiseptic and something else. Copper, thick and metallic. The nurse's station logbook lay open, the last entry dated 1987. Code blue, room 423. No pulse, no breath sounds. Patient continued screaming for 17 minutes after death. I slammed the book shut. Behind me, a wheelchair rolled down the hall, empty, its wheels squeaking. The call light flickered again. This time the bed wasn't empty. A figure lay curled on its side, its back to me. The heart monitor blared a flat line. When I reached for the call button, the corpse sat up. I didn't go back to the 4th floor. But it didn't matter. The next night, the faucets in the staff bathroom ran black, the water thick as oil. The PA system crackled to life, playing a lullaby from the pediatric ward, except pediatrics had been closed for years. Security found the morgue drawers all open, the bodies inside arranged in fetal positions, their lips sewn shut with surgical thread. Then the text started. "Why won't you help me?" Sent from an unlisted number. The attached photo showed room 423, the walls scribbled with frantic, childlike handwriting. "It hurts it, hurts it hurts." The bed was occupied again. This time the figure was sitting upright, its face a blur in the photo, except for its smile. Too wide, too many teeth. I broke protocol. I called the police. The officer who responded was pale when he came back from the 4th floor. "No one's up there," he said. But his hands shook as he handed me his flashlight. The lens was cracked, the glass smeared with bloody fingerprints too small to be an adult's. That night, the elevator trapped me. The doors opened not on the lobby, but the 4th floor. The hallway stretched endlessly, the walls pulsing like living flesh. Room 423's door stood open. Inside, the heart monitor screamed. The figure in the bed turned its head, slowly, wrongly, and I saw its face. It was mine. I quit. For a week, I slept with the lights on, jumping at every creak in my apartment. Then the dreams started. The hospital, the lullaby, the thing wearing my face, whispering, "You left us behind." I woke to my phone ringing. The caller ID read, "Crestwood Memorial." When I answered, all I heard was breathing, wet, labored, and a child's voice giggling. "We're still here," it said. "Come play." The next morning, I found my nurse's uniform hanging in my closet. It reeked of formaldehyde. The pocket was stuffed with used surgical gloves, knotted together like a noose. I went back. I had to know. The hospital was dark, the doors unlocked. The 4th floor was worse. The walls now lined with fleshy, vein-like tendrils, the air thick with the scent of rotting flowers. Room 423's door was gone. In its place, a gaping hole led to a space that shouldn't exist, an operating room from the 1950s, the tiles stained brown, the surgical table occupied. The body was mine. Strapped down, chest split open, ribs pried apart like a butterfly's wings. Above it, a shadow leaned close, its scalpels glinting. It turned. It had no face, just a smooth, blank stretch of skin where features should be. Then it peeled its mouth open, a jagged red slit splitting from ear to ear. "You're just in time," it hissed. I ran. The hallway stretched, the floor undulating like a tongue. Behind me, the lullaby played, the PA system screeching, "Code black! Code black!" The elevator doors opened, not to escape, but to release them. The patients. The dead. Their stitches burst as they reached for me, their mouths unspooling into wet, endless screams. I jumped down the stairwell. The impact shattered my ankle, but I crawled. The exit doors were chained shut. The shadow emerged from the darkness, its scalpels dripping. It leaned down, its breath like rotting meat. "Shh," it whispered. "It's almost over." Then the lights went out. I woke in the hospital. "Found you in the parking lot," the doctor said. "You kept screaming about room 423. I never went back. Changed my name. Moved states. But last night, my new hospital pager buzzed. The message read, 'Room 423 needs you.' And outside my window, a wheelchair rolled by, empty, its wheels squeaking. The abandoned WXKR radio station had been empty since 1987. The night veteran DJ Carl Morrison interrupted his midnight show with 37 seconds of screaming before the broadcast cut to dead air. The police found the studio locked from the inside, the equipment still running, and no trace of Carl. Just a single tape left on the console, labeled "Do Not Play." 30 years later, my crew and I broke in for an urban exploration video. The place was frozen in time, dusty records, yellowed playlists, a half-drunk cup of coffee on the control board that had somehow never dried up. As we set up cameras, the old broadcast lights flickered to life. The on-air sign glowed red, and from the speakers a voice whispered, "About time you showed up. We should have left." But the clicks and shares from a legit haunted broadcast? That was career-making. We set up mics, hit record, and played the tape. At first, just static. Then Carl's voice, calm. October 31st, 1987. If you're hearing this, you're already part of the show. The audio dipped, replaced by a low, wet sound, like something dragging itself across carpet. A new voice cut in, guttural, wrong. "Turn it off." The studio lights died. The temperature dropped. Our camera feeds glitched, showing a figure standing behind us. Tall, its limbs too long, its face a blur of static. When the lights returned, the Do Not Play tape was back in the deck. Rewound, we laughed it off. "Dude, sick editing." But our editor, Jess, hadn't touched the footage. When we checked the raw files, the figure was still there, and it was closer. That night, our mics picked up whispers, "Lights out soon." The studio's antique phone rang. No dial tone, just breathing. Jess answered. "Hello?" The line erupted with Carl's voice, frantic. "They're in the walls. They're in the—" A wet crunch cut him off. We found the station's old basement. The door was padlocked. From inside, something scratched in Morse code. "Dot, dot, dot." Help. We pried the lock off. The stairs groaned underfoot, the air reeking of mildew and spoiled meat. The basement was a maze of old equipment and a makeshift studio. A chair sat centered on a blood-stained tarp, facing a mic. Above it, a single red bulb flickered. Jess screamed. The walls were covered in names, hundreds, maybe thousands, scratched into the concrete. Some recent, some decades old. All listeners who'd called in during Carl's last show. The mic stand toppled. The speakers blared to life. Carl's voice warped. "You're live!" Behind us, the basement door slammed shut. We forced the door open. Ran. Made it to the parking lot before realizing Derek was missing. His last text. "They want a host." The police found him in the studio at dawn. He was seated at Carl's old console, the mic live. His face was frozen in a scream, his eyes gouged out. The coroner called it a heart attack. But the audio from that night, it aired on 3 local stations, just static, and Derek whispering, "We'll be right back." For a week, nothing. Then Jess's doorbell rang at 3 a.m. Her security cam showed a figure in a WXKR jacket. When she opened the door, the hallway was empty. Just a cassette on her mat. Side A. For Jess. Jess played the tape. It was Derek's voice. But not. Something spoke through him, glitching between sentences. The show never ends. It just needs new voices. Then coordinates. A farmhouse, 20 miles away. We went. The basement was identical to the station's. Dozens of tapes lined the walls, each labeled with a date and name. The most recent? Ours. The reel-to-reel player turned on by itself. The audio was a chorus of screams, Carl's, Derek's, hundreds of others. Underneath, the same guttural voice from the station. "You're on in 5. Jess bolted. I followed. The farmhouse door locked behind us, the windows blacked out. From every speaker, phones, radios, even the car's dashboard, Carl's voice chanted, "Stay tuned, stay tuned, stay tuned." The lights died. Something grabbed Jess. I heard wet tearing, then a mic feedback screech. My phone lit up. Live broadcast detected. The camera app opened by itself. The screen showed me, wide-eyed, bleeding, and behind me, the thing from the station, its mouth unhinged, its teeth like broken radio dials. It leaned into frame and whispered, "We're back after these messages." I woke up in my car. No farmhouse, no Jess, just static buzzing from my phone. The news said Jess's body was found at the radio station, her throat slit ear to ear. A copycat suicide, they called it. But last night, my radio turned on by itself. A new broadcast. Derek's voice, Jess's, Carl's, all twisted together. Thanks for listening. Up next, you. And this morning, I found a cassette in my mailbox. The label reads, "Tonight's show, your final words."